SpotlightMediaStudios.com. Welcome to Education Unfiltered. Here is Mary Stucko.
Hello, this is Mary Stucko with Education Unfiltered, where we talk all things higher ed. And today I am joined by Chad Borodychuk, who is the Director of Corporate Training and Continuing Education with the Business and Community Institute. Welcome, Chad. How are you today?
I'm doing great. Thank you, Mary.
You're very welcome. So tell me, give me an overview of the Business and Community Institute.
Well, so we are a part of Lansing Community College. We're part of the Community Education and Workforce Development Division, and we kind of are like the non-credit side of the college. And so where you have students that come into the college to take semester classes, normally what we do is we go out in the community and we partner with business and industry, community organizations, and we focus on corporate training. So really what we do is we tailor education in a sense. We tailor the needs of companies and organizations and give them training for their workforce development needs. And we do all kinds of different unique things. Obviously, corporate training is probably the most readily understood term, but we do things like executive coaching, we do consulting, curriculum development, we can private label, subject matter and things of that nature for companies that want to do their own internal training. But what makes us also unique in regards to sort of that educational perspective is that we can customize our training. So where you might have like a semester-based class, a student comes in, they take a class that's, several months and so forth. For companies, because they are constantly dealing with, speed to market and production schedules and all these kinds of things, they really need to have their people get a skill set really quick and then be able to apply that. And so we are able to customize education in a way that allows them to focus specifically on the skill their person needs in the company or organization's environment. And we can also accelerate the training. So we can maybe do that same training in a week or two, or sometimes it might be something as short as a day or even a couple hours, depending on what the skill is they need. So that's a brief overview of what we're about anyway.
So how do you see that BCI will help companies, especially now, we're kind of looking at maybe training looking a little bit different. How can you help companies who are still working through a difficult time and take them to the next level? Because obviously the need for training doesn't stop.
Oh, absolutely. Well, so one of the big things that we are known for is essentially sitting down with a company and assessing their situation. I mean, the formal term for that is a needs assessment. But we like to speak to their needs specifically. And I mean, that can look like anything, right? Because every company and organization is a little different. And so we find the pain points. My boss, the dean of the division, likes to say, what keeps you up at night? And so that's what we try to do is we try to figure out what they're struggling with and understand how to do that. Now, one of the things that helps us to be successful, obviously, is we have a great team. We have business development managers, we have project managers, we have subject matter experts, and we pull everybody together sort of in a way that allows us to work together to appropriately address those needs. And so, especially in a time like this where, we are learning to pivot, obviously with the inclination of COVID, it's been really challenging for a lot of businesses, and that could be anything. I mean, that could be from the standpoint of, they need to just learn how to be more efficient and effective and more lean in their organization because they don't have the same resources, because their business may not be operating as fast. It may be that they're shifting to this remote, atmosphere, and they need to really learn the technology of how to work remotely. It's a lot of ways communication. We have to communicate differently now because we are not in the same office and we don't do things the same way. So what we do is we work with a company where they're at and walk through, assess the situation, understand what they need, and then oftentimes we'll figure out what that need is, and we'll bring in a subject matter expert to talk through the details and actually create whatever they need in a customized way in order to be able to deliver that the way they need it.
That's great. Is it really, so it sounds like you can pull somebody in to help training in pretty much any area, in any type of company. Is that pretty good assessment?
Absolutely, yes. And I know, I think that's one of the, the images I think of the community college. I never realized what a resource Lansing Community College is until I started working here in the Business and Community Institute. And it's unbelievable, the talent that is available. We work with phenomenal instructors that we have at the college. The Business and Community Institute has our own part-time instructors who are out as well, who are out, their full-time job is essentially what we hire them to teach, so they're trying to leave their legacy because they're masters at what they do. And then we have a lot of resources as well besides that when it comes to very specific things, where it is a vendor-specific type need. And so we work with whoever we need to pull that resource in and provide whatever training is necessary. Excellent.
You guys at BCI work at defining the skills gap. What does that mean?
Well, that's a good question. So, as a high-level overview, a skills gap is basically, somebody is, for example, in a position and they have a certain amount of skills that they need to do their job, but there is an empty spot. There's like a valley or a difference between what they need to have to do their job effectively and what they currently have. So that's why you hear the terminology a lot of times of bridging the skills gap, trying to complete that hole that's missing, that gap that's missing. And I look at it a couple of other ways as well. You can have the situation where in your company you've got, that person A in their position A. And that's kind of like their box. And maybe they're complete in the skills they need to do their job. And then you have person B who maybe is in position B, and they have all of that they need. So you have that box, right? And in that organization or that company, you have all these boxes of all these different areas, and some have gaps and some don't. But I also look at it organizationally, right? So you've got the employee position that could have a gap. They need a specific skill to do their job better or to do their job at all, right? Mm-hmm. And then you have the other side of the coin that's organizationally speaking skills gaps, where it's a blending of all the boxes, and all of a sudden you start looking at like that, the different gaps in skills that we have across the organization. That, for example, you've probably heard this a number of times. I've heard it. There are studies everywhere, but you don't really need a study because it's just a trend. Is one of the top skills that are issues across the board in many organizations is communication. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times we identify, like if I look at somebody or hey, this person's a great communicator. That person may not be as good of a communicator. And it almost is looked at as that's a part of that person. But really communication is a skill, right? Right. It's a skill across the board. And the reality is that there's a number of different ways, maybe it's leadership communication, like an effective leadership. Maybe it's, hey, I just don't know how to communicate when I need to have a difficult conversation with somebody. Or maybe it's, we're missing each other and I don't know why. And maybe that means that they need some kind of a behavioral type of training, like a behavioral assessment type training, because they're learning, okay, these are different types of behaviors that people have. And the reason I'm missing is because maybe they're more task-focused and I'm more people-focused. And so we don't speak in the same language. So that's just one example of, like, organizationally and what it does for culture and what it does for, the environment. You've got body language, you've got, posturing, you've got, all the different things, tone, tact, timing, all these different things that we talk about. And we, across the board, we can have gaps in people's ability to do certain things, or we just have a complete gap in a skill, a specific hands-on skill, like a trade skill or a skill, maybe I just don't know how to use an Excel spreadsheet. And it's something that the company uses regularly. So it's, from an elementary perspective, there's a lot of things like that. And then it gets deeper and deeper and deeper, all the way down to the point of our organization just doesn't have the skill to be able to effectively look at our processes and, from a quality perspective, know how to reduce waste, like wasted resources and time. So we need help with the skill of being lean, and things of that nature. So it's really a really big subject. Mm-hmm. And we find that the way that we get past this is through training, right? SHRM, I don't know if you're familiar with SHRM, but it's a Society for Human Resource Management. They did a really cool study in 2019. It's a little bit old, but when you look at it, I mean, clearly this type of thing has been trending. Whether the percentages are perfect or not, it's been a trend. And when you look at statistically speaking, they're saying that 75% of HR recruiting efforts believe that the skills shortage that they have believe that the reason they're having difficulty recruiting is because there's a skill shortage among those applicants. So clearly that's the most readily understood example of a skill gap. Somebody who has a lot of great skills, but they don't have the full suite of skills they need or the effective skill they need to have that job. But I just say it's across the, it's across the board. It's organizationally and it's by position.
Interesting. Now, what initiatives does the BCI work on to help solve the skills gap?
Well, the first and foremost is all of those different areas that we talked about. I mean, it could be, from a standpoint of top leadership, we've done executive coaching to help assess those things, right? There are times when we put together sort of this leadership training, but it goes across organization, and it may be different types for different things. So we may be doing executive coaching. We may be doing emerging leadership for mid-level leaders. There might be excelling as a new manager type training. And then communication and behavioral style and things like that. That's one example, right? And so we come together with customized solutions across the board, an entire training plan for companies. And it might be, hey, there's one skill set that is a specific skill that we're going to train. It might also be that we have a complete package to solve the whole problem because there's more than just that issue. Maybe we're doing quality training. Maybe we're training an organization on lean organizational development, and we have a couple champions that we're going to put through to get certified in lean or something like that so that they can learn how to reduce waste in their organization, which always adds to the bottom line, right? When you can reduce waste. So we do those kinds of things. But the other things that we do are we work with different types of programs and things to help companies also pay for the training. And so there's like the Michigan New Jobs Training Program, which is a very cool program that's kind of a tax incentive. It's for companies that are creating new jobs, basically. And so it's like a net new set of jobs, not necessarily new openings for jobs. And so they are able to actually defer taxes into an account and use that for training for these new positions. And then we're also working with a current one that is a phenomenal fund. It just opened up the application process. There's over $27 million for businesses to obtain training for their employees. And it's called the Going Pro Talent Fund. And we've been working with a lot of companies on that and have actually in the past, it's been going on for several years. Last year it was defunded. But over the course of several years, we've done probably about $2.2 million worth of training for companies that have applied for that fund. And it's been a great opportunity for companies there as well. So there's a number of things that we do constantly are looking for opportunities for companies and organizations to thrive, to find out ways to train them, to adjust schedules. I mean, everything that you can imagine we're doing to support our community and the companies and organizations in our region. That's
amazing. So how can people obtain the services of the Business and Community Institute?
Great question. So the easiest thing for me to do is just to send everybody to go ahead and have them just send an email to our email address, which is bci@lcc.edu. And just let us know that you have an interest. We have 3 business development managers that do this every day. They work with companies on a regular basis to identify those things. I mean, it's a service to our community. I mean, we are here to support businesses and organizations in our community. And so if they're interested, they can simply tell us that they have interest in talking to somebody, and I will get the correct business development manager for that sector. And we can sit down and just talk about it, work through it, and start from A and work to Z.
Is there any place else, a website or any place else where they can go to find out more information if they just want to research BCI a little bit more?
Yep, they can find us on the website, which is if they go to lcc.edu and then /BCI. And that should take them to our workforce development site. We've got corporate training, continuing education. Our entire division is kind of set up to help support as well. Our core function in the Business and Community Institute is, of course, the corporate training and continuing education piece of it. So.
Excellent. And just real quickly, in the next 30 seconds or so, are there any other new trends that you're seeing that people should be on the lookout for?
Well, I mean, the obvious, of course, we are pivoting to create a corporate training platform that's online so that we can do a lot more asynchronous training, meaning provide a lot more training to companies that, might be face-to-face, might not be, might share that, but asynchronous just meaning they can get online at any time, do their training as they need. And so we're shifting that way. And as far as trends go, we've done a lot of different webinars and things like that, we are open to anything that companies are going through to help them walk through it. And so that's the best, that's the best thing we can do. The other thing is our organization has done a great job. LCC has done a great job. I'm proud of them for how well they've treated the COVID process in making sure that as we do training, we are pivoting well in order to provide very safe training. We have safety plans. We go through an entire process to create these plans to make sure that all I's are dotted, T's are crossed, and we will come to organizations. We will do online training. We can even have folks at our location, and we do a great job of making sure it's going to be a safe training. So hopefully that answers your question.
It does.
But we're doing everything we can. So,
Great stuff you're doing over there, Chad. Thank you so much for joining us. That was Chad Borodychuk, with the Director of Corporate Training and Continuing Education at BCI through Lansing Community College. This is Mary Stucko with Education Unfiltered. Thank you for joining us.